The greatest samurai duel of all time was won with a wooden sword. Yes, see, on one side you have Miyamoto Musashi, who was the greatest samurai of all time and had never lost a duel. And then you had Sasaki Kojiro, who many thought was one of the most skilled swordsmen and would be a challenge even for Miyamoto. This was truly the two greatest swordsmen of their time battling it out, and it all went down on a tiny island in Japan in 1612. So Miyamoto Musashi was born in Miyamoto village around 1584, and he was the son of a famous swordsman. His mother died in childbirth. Now once he was 10, his father abandoned him, and so Miyamoto went to live with his uncle, who was a monk at a temple nearby, and it was here he learnt about Buddhism, which would influence him heavily in life. Now Japan at this time was very chaotic, with the wars and battles going on all the time. Miyamoto would go on to fight his first duel when he was only 13, which is pretty crazy, but what's more crazy is that he won, and from this point on he would challenge more and more people to duels, and of course win them all. And this let Miyamoto Musashi gain an enormous reputation as one of the best swordsmen in the land, winning over 60 duels. And it was not only due to his great strength, but his ability to use his opponent's weaknesses against themselves. And this would all bring him to his final duel with Sasaki Kojiro. Now we have Sasaki Kojiro, who trained under top sword masters and built a name for himself through skill and speed. People recognized him immediately because he would use a long sword, a nodachi. Most samurai preferred shorter blades, but Kojiro mastered this massive sword and created a famous attack called Tsubame Gaishi, or swallow cut, which was said to be as fast as a bird changing direction, hence its name. He also created his own sword style named Ganryu style, although not too much is known about this. And so it is said that Miyamoto was the one who requested the duel, and Sasaki accepted, and the duel would take place on a small island in 1 year's time on April 13th, 1612. Now, the story goes that Musashi arrived several hours late to the island, which made Sasaki furious. Some people think Musashi did this on purpose, to mess with Sasaki's head. This would make sense, as Musashi was someone who exploited his enemy's weaknesses. But what was truly interesting is that before coming to shore, Musashi carved a wooden sword out of an oar from the boat he was riding in. And this wasn't some tiny sword. He shaped it to be as long as Kojiro's blade, but it was lighter and faster. And finally, when Musashi stepped onto the beach, Sasaki, who was angry at Musashi for making him wait hours, drew his massive sword and threw away the sheath. And it is said that upon seeing that, Musashi said the famous phrase, "If you have no more use for your sheath, you are already dead." At that moment, Sasaki lunged forward, going for a fast, deadly strike, but Musashi stepped aside just enough, reading the timing perfectly, and in that split second he swung his wooden sword down with full force and cracked Kojiro's skull open. One hit, one moment, a wooden blade ended the life of Japan's top swordsman. People around him were stunned. Sasaki's skill was real, his reputation was real, his technique was real, but Musashi had figured out how to beat him before the fight even started, mentally and strategically. Now, it is here that something interesting happened. See, Musashi, upon seeing Sasaki dead, did not rejoice, did not feel happy, but rather a sense of sadness came upon him. Seeing a skilled swordsman like himself dead on the ground was a moment that resonated with Musashi, and it was from this moment that Musashi pledged to never engage in a duel to the death for the rest of his life. And Miyamoto would stay true to this, and would confine himself to writing philosophy, creating books like the Book of Five Rings and The Way of Walking Alone, using all he had learned in his life, from the early teachings of Buddhism to his life as an undefeated swordsman. And so the duel with Sasaki would not only change Miyamoto, but would go down in history as the greatest samurai duel that was won with a wooden sword. And with that, I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next time.